So, buongiorno, mis amores. Oh, mamma mia, I'm not actually Italian. I don't know why I keep pretending like I am, but here I am. And because it's me, Mario. But yeah, I try to change the place where I record so that the lighting is a bit better, and I just looked at the light, and now I'm blind. But I hope this is better because the last video I made was kind of really dark, and I feel like it's just the quality is already not optimal, but you know, we've been working through it, and I feel like this makes things a tiny bit better. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. I should probably get a mic as well. But you know what? All of the people that talk about how to start a YouTube channel, they say that you don't need fancy equipment and to just make do with what you have, and that is exactly what I'm doing. So you know what? If you people want me to get a mic and increase the quality, then like my Patreon link is down below. So donate so that I can get some better equipment like an actual ring light and things like that, and then the quality will improve, okay? Here I am being demanding already, but you know, whatever. That is not the topic today. So the topic on the agenda today is how to do a psychosomatic or an intuitive self-assessment, at least the basics of it. And the big important note to make before we even start the video is that I do not advocate against going to get professional help. If anything, this video is not in any way saying that you shouldn't go and get your stuff looked up properly by a proper doctor in a proper hospital, all right? So if you have any proper issues that are actually getting in the way of you living a fulfilling and healthy life, go to a medical professional first. And if anything, it is my personal belief that the best way to take care of your health is to combine all of it, to get the modern medical treatments and things like that, to then also look at things in a holistic, naturopathic manner, to engage with some traditional medicine, and to engage with some alternative healing methods like Reiki, energy healing, chakra work, yoga, and all of those things. Especially because I know of so many cases where proper modern medicine, and I have personally been through these cases, where proper modern medicine of the highest grade has not been enough and couldn't determine what the actual cause of a certain illness or a certain health imbalance is. Or there are also situations where even when there is a proper modern medical treatment available to an individual, that medical treatment doesn't tend to be enough sometimes, and there still has to be a lot of supplementary work that needs to be done in order to not just, you know, treat the symptoms the way that modern medicine usually does, but to actually get to the core of the issue, or to increase the individual's life quality more than just getting the medication or the surgery would. But then also, on the other side of the coin, in order to even be able to do this holistic self-assessment, an individual needs to already have a fairly good understanding and connection to their body, to their organism, have a fairly high level of self-awareness, and needs to already be tracking their lifestyle choices and already be, once again, aware of what they're actually doing in life and the consequences of actions and steps that they take. So, in order to actually self assess holistically, you need to, once again, be aware of your lifestyle, be aware of your genetic predispositions, be aware of the context and of the environment within which you exist, and what potentially that environment leads to a lot in other people. What is the natural state for your particular type of body to be in? Like, for example, if you're from a northern country originally, but nowadays live in like in a southern hot country, obviously it's going to have a very different impact because you come from a cold country into a hot country. Plus, also have a fairly good understanding of mindfulness practices so that you know fairly certainly that, for example, your panic attacks are not because you're actually living a terrible lifestyle and just like not practicing any mindfulness, but because there is genuinely something wrong. So if you're already practicing mindfulness, if you're already doing yoga, meditations, and things like that, technically your mental health especially should be fairly good, fairly stable. And so then you know that if usually your mental health is quite good, and then something just out of nowhere gets out of whack, then probably there's a different cost to it. It's not just because your lifestyle is already quite bad and a cause for concern. So once again, this information is not a replacement for professional medical help and should instead be used as additional guidance, additional supplementary information and support that might actually even help you speak to your actual modern medical professional better as well, because then you would understand what the potential causes of your current situations are, instead of just being like, oh, I don't know, it just appeared out of nowhere, but I don't know what I was doing yesterday, last week, the month before, I don't really track it. Because, modern medical professionals need to look at your history as well. So, yeah, anyway, this is all about self awareness, self study, self understanding, and also trying to, just be a healthier individual. So, this doesn't just have to be employed in cases where something is wrong with you, but it's just a practice that I would recommend that you should do on a constant basis anyway, just so that you have an essential record in your mind of what your normal stage of being is, and when something just starts to kind of fall out of place, so that you can, if anything, prevent proper diseases from developing in the future and take measure in the moment that you feel something starts to go wrong. So, first of all, let's start with basic anatomy. You should probably already have at least a somewhat understanding of basic anatomy if you're an adult. We have a head, we have arms, we have our internal organs that all interlink, that all respond to each other. If you have attended school at all, you're already well aware of those physical as in normally accepted standards, traits, and behaviors that the human body possesses. So the first level of awareness that you need to grasp in order to do any kind of self-assessment is obviously just your basic human biology with common knowledge. But then the second level of awareness is understanding how your biology actually coexists. That your body internally and externally, and in terms of its relation to its environment, is all just a bunch of different ecosystems that are all interrelated and exist in a symbiotic relationship. So you should already have awareness of the fact that your organs don't exist in separation, and that oftentimes when something goes wrong with one of your organs or one of the parts of your body, it also has a high risk of having an impact on the elements that surround it, or can sometimes even be on the opposite side of it. Because let's do a simple demonstration that your hips are connected to your spine. Therefore, when something goes wrong with your hip bone, it twists the hip, therefore twisting the spine as well, which in turn goes up, twists your rib cage or potentially shoulders, which in turn twists your spine further up, and then can even go as far as twisting your jawline, changing something about your facial proportions, and so on and so forth. And obviously, that also then impacts your legs, your arms, in general, your ability to maintain a balance, which can actually end up throwing your whole internal ecosystem as well out of whack. So it's kind of funny, but essentially, pretty much everything in your body is interlinked. So when you get any kind of injury, chances are it has some consequences that you might not even have thought of. So once again, the second level of awareness is the awareness of how all of those separate parts of your body and organs and things like that actually interlink together, and how an impact on one part of your body can create a whole chain of events across the rest of your body. Then the third level of awareness that you require in order to do holistic assessments of yourself is your, once again, genetic predispositions and ways that your body has adapted over a very, very long period of time to certain external stimuli or certain circumstances in your environment. So the genetic aspect of this is actually extremely helpful in even narrowing down the proper modern medical search for potential causes of what is happening to you externally, for some symptoms that you're showing externally. So, for example, if you have family members who, let's say, had osteoporosis or diabetes, chances are, if you're experiencing certain symptoms right now that you just don't understand where they come from, it could be a kind of pre warning of you potentially going down the route of developing the symptoms that lead to osteoporosis or diabetes as well. Even if right now you don't have those diseases or disorders, your body could just be signaling to you that, oh, the lifestyle you're leading right now could potentially lead to you developing the diseases that your parents or grandparents or grandparents had. Then it becomes crucial to make lifestyle changes in order to mitigate and avoid the development of those, once again, disorders and diseases. So now we get into the territory of the psychosomatic, psychological, and you could say yogic spiritual understanding of the human body. So this next step is a jump from only observing your physical body in the sense of your actual bodily endings, organs, and things that can obviously be tracked by medical devices, and we get to more symbolic and associative fields of understanding. So let's start with a more common bit of knowledge, which is the yogic understanding of the energy system of the human body. Oftentimes, the energy system is said to consist of the chakra centers and the nadis. So the nadis, of which there's about 72,000 if I remember correctly, are channels of prana, which is your life force energy. Whereas chakras are essentially centers where a high amount of that prana is typically concentrated. And in general, there's actually 114 chakras within and around the human body. However, once again, this video is about the basic understanding of holistic and intuitive healing. So we will only talk about the main seven that everybody always talks about, that are common knowledge at this point, at least from the people that surround me. Everybody knows about the main seven chakras. I'm going to use the English names for them, although I should probably be using the proper terminology, but once again, basic video, so English it is. So you have your root chakra, which is associated with your basic animal instincts, with your basic physical existence on this planet, your rooting, the root chakra, come on, your root connection to Mother Earth. So anything that is, once again, very, very basic, primal, at the bottom of our conscious awareness. Next, we have the sacral chakra, which is responsible for reproduction programs. So programs associated with attraction, with also creative energy, and is essentially the second level of our survival needs. So whereas the root chakra is responsible for the most basic survival instincts, the sacral chakra is such survival instincts as the desire to belong, the desire to possess, and so on and so forth. Next, we have our solar plexus chakra, which is responsible for our motivation, drive in life, desire to do things, desire to go out there, be social, communicate, and is also a very, very important point of concentration of prana or chi in your body in both the traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda and yoga as well. So once you start doing yoga, actually a lot of the exercises that are centered around your breath put a lot of pressure on your solar plexus chakra. Then we have our heart chakra, which is, well, obvious associations here, very easily understood even through just English terminology. So the heart chakra is responsible to the sensations of love, also to sensations of belonging, but instead of belonging being like this instinctive need to belong to a tribe, it's instead belonging on a one-to-one basis, feeling your connections to other human beings on more than just a survival level. The heart chakra is also associated with the desire to give, to care, to nurture. And just in general, it is actually, it probably is wrong to say that I have a favorite chakra, but to me, it is my favorite chakra, the heart chakra, because come on, love is love, love is beautiful. Then we have the throat chakra, which is obviously responsible, well, not responsible, but is associated with things such as communication, relating to other people, self-expression as well. So whereas the sacral chakra is the desire to self-express, the throat chakra is more so the actual ability and the action of self-expression. Then we have the ajna, the third eye chakra, which is associated with our ability of foresight, our ability to predict certain things, to view the bigger picture, to have an understanding, also the mental processes within our minds, within our bodies, and is also strongly associated with some supernatural abilities. But once again, that is not a topic for this video. And lastly, we have our crown chakra, which is the connection to source, the connection to God, the Buddhist state of understanding, or the Krishna consciousness, as some call it, and many other esoteric terms. But once again, that is getting into terminology which is slightly difficult to comprehend at the basic level and is not as relevant in terms of sustaining and maintaining and assessing our physical bodies holistically. But nonetheless, we will mention it because it is once again an essential point at which we connect to the larger universe, to the larger interconnectedness of things and of nature. So, still an important chakra, but just in terms of self assessment, may not always be as relevant unless you're like taking in too many energies from around yourself, but again, too difficult to comprehend. So, why do we actually need to have an understanding of the basic chakra system in order to grasp psychosomatic, psychosomatics, and the holistic understanding of the root causes of certain issues? That is because the location and the traits associated to each chakra can actually be really good insight as to what might be out of whack in terms of your actual daily life that is then providing symptoms that are showing up in your physical body. And it is also an excellent guidance system as to what traditional or alternative healing methods you might want to engage with in order to at least maintain the issue at bay, if not actually make an improvement on it. So let me give you a few simple examples for basically each chakra. Let's say you're having issues with your legs. The legs are essentially associated with the root chakra at the most basic level. We're not going to go into how legs actually have the whole like other system of chakras as well, but on the most basic level is the root chakra. It's what provides you stability on this earth. It's what carries you through your life. It is one of the most basic things you need for your survival, which is movement. So leg problems in that sense can symbolize that something is out of whack in your life in terms of your most basic survival needs, or your ability to feel safe and secure on this planet. What in your life is a big cause of a sense of instability, of feeling ungrounded, of not feeling rooted? Like, are there maybe financial decisions that you make on a constant basis that lead you to constantly feeling like you're about to go broke? Or do you have a sense of security in yourself being able to make good choices for your own health and for your own stability in general? Do you feel like you actually take enough responsibility for your own survival and for your own well-being? Do you make correct choices in life, at least in what you within yourself deeply deem to be correct? Next, let's say you have issues in your hip area, or with your reproductive organs. That most likely either signifies that you have some issues to do with your family, because once again, it's the reproductive organs, so anything that is related to your relational safety, security, or it might also signify that you are overly restricting yourself in some either way that you express yourself or in some aspect of you relating to others, or there are some ways that you're majorly holding yourself back in this life. Or once again, in a psychosomatic sense, it can actually be an indicator that your subconscious is telling you that the choices that you're making in terms of, once again, you relating to other people or you relating to your creativity, is non-conducive to you existing in an optimal way within society, or you once again making choices that do not promote safety and security in your life, similarly to the root chakra as well. Then issues in the middle of your body, so kind of in your digestive area, maybe in your lower spine. Well, actually, the lower spine, that would also be the sacral chakra, but the middle of your back, or your tummy. So any issues that are around here, that is to do with the things associated with your solar plexus chakra. So once again, what is the solar plexus chakra? It is your motivation, your drive in life, your will to do things. So if you're having issues, let's say, with your digestion, chances are it is actually quite an obvious thing to grasp. Is that if you're having digestive issues, you are eating something that is really, really bad for you. And if you have them persistently, then obviously it's once again an issue of lifestyle. And oftentimes, when do we have issues with our lifestyle and our digestion? Is when we just stop caring about what we actually ingest into our body. And when do we stop caring about what we ingest in our body? Is when we don't have the motivation to actually look after ourselves and to actually ensure that we stay well and healthy on the most basic nutritional level. Or on the other side, let's say you have pain in the middle of your back, which once again would be associated with your solar plexus or potentially sacral energy. The cause of middle back pain most times is either muscle strain or it's literally just you sitting with bad posture. And once again, when do we slouch and sit with bad posture and as a result get all sorts of issues like muscle strain? Is when we feel down, because when an individual feels down, feels weak, that is when they sit with a crooked back. When an individual feels strong and empowered, you can see this once again, this like basic psychosomatic theory is that when an individual feels strong and secure in themselves, they sit with their shoulders open, their back straight, and in general their posture tends to be better. Whereas if you have really, really bad posture, it can lead to a whole massive amount of further issues. And usually, once again, bad posture is related to some potentially mental conditions, potentially depression, or it could also be a generational thing, in which case you might actually want to do some energy work with generational karma and generational trauma. So, yeah, once again, something to do either with your attitude, with your motivation in life, or potentially where you're directing your energy towards. Maybe you're expressing yourself and doing things in life and staying motivated, but you're doing something that you are not actually passionate about, something that is not actually truly you. Then a slightly more confusing area is kind of this heart and throat chakra area. Because on one hand, the top of your arms is more so related to your heart chakra, whereas the palms and the fingers is actually more so related to your throat chakra, because these are what you actually grab things with in order to express yourself. Whereas these is, you could say, what allows you to give hugs to people. But that is a silly explanation, but you know what? That is at least the theory behind it. That this is the heart chakra, but this is the throat chakra. So issues that you have in these areas are going to be related with issues that are associated with the heart chakra. So maybe you are being extremely closed off to people, maybe you are not living in a place of belonging, maybe you are shying away too much from expressing yourself, maybe you got really, really hurt by somebody or something in your past. Or once again, maybe there's some generational patterns and issues of you relating on a one-to-one level to somebody in your family or a person that you wish you were closer with. And then issues related to your palms, hands, fingers, and throat is things to do with self expression, with your ability to speak up, with your ability to stand up for yourself, defend yourself sometimes, establish proper boundaries, or yeah, just voice your views and opinions. So if you're limiting those factors in your life, or somebody else is limiting you, or you exist in an environment which is non conducive to you expressing yourself, chances are you might develop some symptomology in these areas to signal to you that, yeah, you need to do something about it. You need to become braver or whatever. And then lastly, in terms of physical symptoms, issues that you have around your head, sometimes on your face, migraines, things with your brain, are oftentimes to do with your perception, with your psychological conditioning, or you could potentially be opening up some spiritual gifts. But once again, because this is more about health, we're not going to go there. Most of the time, if you have some symptomology showing around here, it is to do with the way that you perceive the world around yourself, or the way that you perceive your inner self as well. So anything to do with perception, with thoughts, with thought patterns, that is to do with your ajna. So that is what would potentially be a good supplementary thing to do to work on, in addition to, once again, getting proper treatments, whether you do it through proper modern medicine or alternative medicine like traditional Chinese medicine. Either way, do the work on top of all of that. So after that first level of associative understanding of potential supplementary work that you might want to do, or you might at least want to keep an eye on and observe in your life, is understanding the elemental and the temperamental components of your body's makeup, which is a practice that is used in Ayurveda, in traditional Chinese medicine, in Unani, in ancient Hellenic medicine, and in pretty much most ancient medical practices. So, although back in ancient times people might have actually believed that humans were properly made up of these simplest elements, which are typically fire, water, earth, and then in some practices they are things like metal, ether, or call them different names such as bile, phlegm, and blood. Nowadays, although we actually know that the body consists of actual tissue, which consists of microelements and atoms and things like that, the point in terms of the associative level of our mind still stands, and those systems of understanding in terms of the elements as associated with the earth around us can still be a helpful guide. So, when going into understanding the elemental components and their balance within your body, things such as fire, for example, would be associated with traits such as anger or passion. Elements such as water would be the way that you flow through life, potentially your coldness or your ability to adjust to circumstances. Then the element of air, which is very, very common as well, is all about how easy you are, how easygoing you are, how easy you are in communication, how, once again, easily you flow through life, how flighty you are potentially, so on and so forth. And then the most common, once again, element in all of the systems of Earth is about how grounded you are, how stable you feel, how potentially stubborn you are, maybe sometimes how closed off you are. And then additional elements that some systems add, some don't, such as ether, in particular, is responsible to your spirituality, to your sense of connection, to your creativity and higher understanding of life, of the universe, of other people. Whereas things such as metal from traditional Chinese medicine is associated with structures, with self esteem, so with your sense of self worth, with the ability to structure your life and take responsibility. So, at this level of understanding, you almost start looking at your body in an archetypal way, where looking at the archetype can actually lead you to discovering any other potential situations or issues that might arise within you just because you're displaying one of the symptoms. So, an easy example, once again, would be, let's say you have anger issues, or once again, being overly passionate is once again associated with the element of fire. So, although right now in this moment you might not be showing any symptomology of other issues that could be related to you having excess fire within yourself, you should be keeping a watch or on a lookout for you developing or just in general displaying other traits associated with fire. So, for example, a lot of digestive issues are actually related to having too much fire in you in a variety of different traditional medical systems. Or also things such as skin problems are also associated with fire. So if you display just one trait in excess that is related to fire, like once again, anger or passion, that means you should just pay extra attention to the other aspects of your health that are related to fire. So maybe you should be more careful with the things that you eat and with the ways that you care for your skin, with the environments that you exist within, to ensure that the environments that you put yourself into and the lifestyle that you maintain does not evoke and promote even more fire. So you don't throw yourself into too many triggering situations on a daily basis. You ensure that you don't argue with people too much, and that, for example, you avoid spicy food most of the time at a most basic level. So I won't go through all of the elements in this video because I have already done too much in terms of the chakra system, but I would just advise you to look into it yourself. So pick out one traditional healing system that appeals to you. Once again, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, the Hellenic system, or the Unani system, and just look into what they say about elements and the traits that are associated to those elements. But I will insert a picture here. I should have inserted it at this point, so you can look at the picture, pause the video, have a look at it, and study it a bit, and maybe even try to do a little self-assessment of how many components you have and you portray within yourself. So the last level of understanding that I will add to this video, which I have already partially utilized in the previous steps, is the associative psychosomatic level of understanding, where, for example, I already spoke about the hands being useful for drawing and creating things with your hands, or your feet and your legs being there to carry you through life. So, through this kind of verbal storytelling that we tend to use, there are ways that you can also interpret and see what areas of your life you might potentially need to look at depending on what symptoms you are showing. So, all of these levels are technically interlinked and all mixed up, but it's just easier to break it down into a system like that. And I'm putting this bigger, once again, storytelling understanding of psychosomatic symptomology as last, because here you actually need to go deeper into understanding the associations that you in particular have grown up with. So the context which you came from, the stories that you have been told as a child, and what actions you associate with what parts of the body. Because depending on, once again, your conditioning, it might slightly differ. And this is where it's important to, when you pick out an alternative or a traditional medical system, to actually potentially go towards one that closely resonates to your genetics. So if you're from somewhere like in Asia, then obviously the Asian systems will be closer to you and will resonate more with you, because you have generations upon generations of conditioning within those systems in your DNA, even we could say on that level. But then if you're from Europe, let's say, then it could be better to look at the Hellenic traditional healing systems. And then if you're from somewhere like Africa, then it could be good to look at traditional medical systems that are native to Africa, and so on and so forth. And so here I can't even give you particular examples because I hope at least all of you come from very, very different places on earth. And so this step of awareness would be up to you to understand and once again dig back into your ancestry, into your childhood, and grasp what you were raised on, what beliefs you were raised with. And this essentially comes down to doing deeper psychological self analysis work. But on the most basic associative level, it would be things such as mouth issues, probably something to do either with the way that you speak, with your communication, or with what you consume. Then you have hair issues. It could potentially have to do with your intuition. And then shoulders could be associated with you carrying a burden. So here, this is why I have to leave it up to you to interpret, because, for example, I grew up in a background and in a system where in both Russian and English we talk about carrying a burden, as in like, and the image that pops up in my mind, so the associations that I have with the term carrying a burden, is somebody grabbing a heavy bag, putting it on their back over their shoulders. Hence, for example, when I feel like I'm carrying too much of a burden in my life, or there is something that is burdening me, or some responsibility that I have not stepped up to take care of, I usually get shoulder pain. But that is because, once again, it is on the deeper subconscious level of my associations and my backgrounds. It might not necessarily be the right system of understanding for you. So, the best thing I can tell you is just when you do self assessments in terms of in terms of associations of certain body parts and their symptomology, think through what images, what pictures pop up in your mind when you think of actions that are related to that body part. But so yeah, I think this is enough information for now, and I hope it helps. Although to a lot of people, including myself, this might be just total common sense. To some people, it is not as commonsensical. It doesn't make as much sense as it does to others. So if you're one of those people who hasn't considered it or never took the system of self-understanding seriously before, maybe it's something to look into a bit deeper. And once again, use this as supplementary information to getting proper medical care, medical help. or use it in order to further improve your life, to not just keep it at a decent level, but to actually make it better and use it for self-empowerment. And at the end of the day, this type of holistic self-assessment, it helps you develop your own intuition. So, a developed intuition is always good. I'm not going to go into why at this point, but yeah, just develop your intuition, listen to your body, listen to what your body is telling you, and it can actually make you better at navigating your everyday life as well. So, yeah, I hope you have a great day and stay healthy and look after your nutrition and after your body and care for yourself and make sure you stay hydrated. Go, even if you just drank some water, go grab another glass of water and drink some water right now. It's always good. Water, scrumptious, just love it, love it. And go touch a plant, touch some earth. Stay grounded, and yeah, just be a good person. Stay strong.